If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then the UK Property Market Stats Show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I'm joined by a special guest. This week it's Verona Frankish, the boss lady of Yopa, the national estate agency chain. We'll come to Verona in a second. Why should you watch this show? Well, the British are obsessed with the property market. You know, whenever the land registry chucks something out, it's front page news. Problem is, the land registry is looking at sales that were agreed 8, 9, 10 months ago. The Nationwide and the Halifax are looking at sales that took place 2 or 3 months ago. We're looking at house prices and the details of the property market from last week. So if you want to know what's happening in the property market, then this show is for you. We've been doing this show. We're in our third year, and as I said, each week we have a different guest. And returning back and she's been on the show many, many times. Offers great value for money for the viewers. Is Verona Frankish. Verona is a powerhouse in the estate agency profession, looked up to, and what she says, everyone listens to. She's the boss lady of Yopa, who is what number are you now, Verona?
We fluctuate between 6 and 7,
Excellent.
but you know
And,
that's not important.
what is important though is that you have one of the best saleability rates in the
We
UK,
sure do.
which means is for every 100 houses they put on the market, how many do they actually get through to exchange and completion? And quite simply, ladies and gentlemen, in the top 10 or top, it's exceptional. In the top 100, it's even better. So she knows her stuff. Right, without further ado, the show is split roughly into two. First half is talking about the UK property market. The second half is focusing on a town or a city. And this week, we are returning back after a couple of years to the ex-mining town of Mansfield, which is just off your doorstep, isn't it?
Not far at all. Yeah,
Excellent, good stuff. The land of D.H. Lawrence and around there, ladies and
it
gentlemen.
is.
Week 25 is Monday, the 23rd of June, all the way through and to include Sunday, the 29th of June. God, can you believe it? We're
Literally the halfway point in the year. Where has it gone? Frightening.
scary stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we will go and look at the UK property stats now. Right, the way we work this, ladies and gentlemen, is I just spend a minute or so just going through each metric, and then we go over to the wonderful Verona where she gives her insight. We start always with listings because that is at the top of the funnel. And this week we've put on 36,708 properties in the UK, and you can see how that compares with other week 25s. Going back to 2027, the average asking price of a property coming on the market, £445,000. And year to date, we have put on the market £930,000, which is 14.9% ahead of the overall 9 year average, 7.6% ahead of 17, 18, or 19, which is more normal years, and 5% ahead of where we were last year. And then we'll just put that graph up here. This just shows each week, but throughout the year. And the white line is 2025. And you can see there that we are now into the slow easing off during the summer, which is pretty normal for this time of year. So, Verona, thoughts on scores on the doors with listings?
Well, I mean, I think every single one of those metrics are really positive, right? If you compare over the last 8 or 9 years, the average, we're ahead on, I think, all of those metrics. So that demonstrates that we are proving to be consistently resilient as a sector. And obviously, over the last couple of months, we've had a little bit of positive news in terms of mortgage affordability is starting to relax a bit. We've got really good interest rates. I mean, we have this conversation quite regularly about interest rates, and they've got threes and high threes in front of them now rather than fours and fives over the last couple of months. But that's about the right, or the last couple of years, sorry. That's about the right numbers from a mortgage perspective. We're not going to get back to the zeros and the ones that we've seen or we enjoyed for a number of years, and that's definitely helping. I think the public is becoming more used to those numbers now, and they're accepting that if they've got plans and they want to move, then they should just get on with it. And we're seeing that in all the numbers. I think it'll be interesting when we come to stock levels, but it's clear that stock is increasing across the country. And I think what's going to be also interesting is sales rate. I normally get a chance to review these numbers before we do the show, and I haven't done today, so I haven't had a chance to look at them, but I'm sure we'll come on to them. But the stock is building, you can tell. So therefore, from a sales rate perspective, pricing is going to be really, really key now for that sort of volume if we want to shift them.
Good stuff. So we've got here is stock levels. That we do this
Yeah.
on a monthly basis. So we will be doing another one at the which will be tomorrow because we're filming this on Monday the 30th. This was the end of May going into the 1st of June and all the
Yeah.
of that. Let's just remind ourselves that that figure was at 1.2, 1.3 million back in 2008, where there was an excess supply. So
Yeah.
just
We're
be
not quite at the scary numbers yet, but you can see that stock is building. Yeah.
we And again, what is particularly interesting is that yes, stock levels, the number of listings is higher at 5% than last year, but the number of sales is 8% higher. Okay,
Yeah.
and the number of exchanges are 6% higher. So yeah, you take it with a pinch of salt. Fundamentally, the same percentage of homes are roughly exchanging
Yeah.
percentage times. And we just remind ourselves is that we are pushing around that 51, 52% of homes that are leaving agents' books with being paid on, or the homeowners are moving and the others are withdrawing. I still think it's awful that you have a flip of
Oh,
a chance.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not great at all. And it's not great because also customers are becoming much, much, much more demanding in terms of what they expect from their agent. And as an agent, we're putting significantly more effort in to marketing properties, and to only get paid on one and two of those in most cases is not great.
Well, what was particularly interesting, and I know you know this stat, but I looked at the top 100 estate agents by volume about a month ago, and I worked out what percentage of homes did they actually exchange contracts on. So for
Yeah.
100 houses on, how many would they exchange on? And the average in the top 100 was around 52, 53, and the average for personal agents, with which you're one, EXP, TAUK.
Yeah.
Um, who were also in the top 100, 62, 63%, which
Yeah.
means you have a 20% greater chance of shifting a house with a personal agent. I think it comes down to is that you've got skin in the game, haven't you? And and
You
and you've
I
got the
think there's so many reasons actually. Skin in the game for sure, but also there is vested interest in terms of when you list that property, you're with that customer the whole way through the journey. Whereas in a more traditional setup, it's obviously a segmented transaction, and therefore there you could call it skin in the game financially, but also skin in the game emotionally.
so right.
So yeah, I think there's a number of reasons.
Right, okay, so let's move on to price reductions, and the number of price reductions is 26,774. Average price of a property being reduced is 419,000. And again, this is a monthly stat, but the percentage of homes that are being reduced last month, 14%. Anecdotally, we're about the same. It might actually knock a bit more up. We'll wait for the stats to come through. But it's going to be around 13-14% for June, but we'll know in the next show when we do that. Do you think we're reducing enough homes when only one in two homes are shifting?
Yeah, I think that the pricing one is an interesting one, and I know Zoopla brought out some data over the last couple of days as well, where they've also talked about pricing and how important that is for sales rates. Because of the volume of stock is increasing, I think aptly. I never know what the right word is to use for pricing it to sell, because surely you're pricing everything to sell, but you're pricing it realistically, you're pricing it appropriately to your market. I think that's really, really critical now, because the last thing we want to do is have that stock sitting on the market as we start to, the summer months, holiday season, and then we start to go into the quieter months of the year. If you're not selling now, you don't want to have to carry that stock through the winter. So I think it's really important that we get prices appropriately stock appropriately priced now, to improve that 1 in 2 chance.
Indeed. Interestingly, some new stats that have come through in the last 2 years, for every property that has sold, so exchanged, the
Yeah.
difference between the price at sale agreed
Hmm.
and the exchange price was always between 98.7 and 99.1%. And if there's nothing that, not the original asking price, we're actually talking about the asking price when it went
At
sale.
SSTC.
If
Yeah.
that doesn't
Hmm.
shout at right, price realistically, I don't think anything else does. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, a stat I love to bits: if a property takes more than 100 days to exchange, no, start again. If a property is been on the market 100 days and then goes sale agreed after 100 days, the chances of it then subsequently making exchange is 56%. If a
Yeah.
property achieves a sale within 25 days, the chances of its sale subsequently get exchanging is 94%. Massive difference there. So again, another stat that says back it up. Also, I've been using ChatGPT and a deep research, and I've put all the stats in for the top 100 London agents about their overvaluing stats and their exchange stats and what they got. And there is a massive we knew it, but we've got
Yeah.
it backed up. Those that keenly price get their exchanges through and get more money, more exchanges through and more money for their homeowners.
Yeah. And also to the point of customers demanding more and wanting more from their marketing strategy, if we price it appropriately and market it well from the get-go, then you're spending significantly less time, resource, effort, and money as an agent in continuing to find new strategies to market a property when actually the thing that you need to get right first of all is price. And listen, I know it's not as straightforward as that because we're always managing customer expectation, but that is where the beauty of the data helps to do that. And that is where the data that we look at today and the 20 EA data gives you the best opportunity to provide the balance in the lounge with the emotional connection with your customer, but also the data to back up what you do and what anybody else in your area does.
And those that you who are, not in Mansfield, do watch the second part of the show because we were using a bit of kit which proves overvaluing doesn't win in your town. And if you are keenly priced, then you can prove to homeowners that you hopefully get more money from them. We've got independent data for that. Let's look at the sales, gross sales. The white line is this year, the turquoise line is the year before, and the pink line is 2023. And you can see here that we are again very nicely, we're at 664, which is 8%
Yeah.
ahead of last year, 15.6% ahead of 1718. So yes, the number of listings is 7.6% higher than 17, 18, 19, which are more normal years, but
Yeah.
sales are higher at 15.6. So, to look, 2022, the trust budget hadn't kicked in, interest rates hadn't started to waver a bit.
Yeah.
And to say that we are literally two or 3,000 off 2022, and we
Yeah.
would catch up 2022 because 22 was a bit of a nightmare year. But to at this point, that's really good.
Absolutely. And after the last couple of years, the start of this year, if we'd have said at the halfway point that not only were listings holding up really well, but also sales were holding up really well, we'd be happy with that. I think it's been there's a lot to be positive about this year. I think it's been a much, much better year all round. And the sales rate is phenomenal. But, back to the point, it, if we were tweaking some of the things that we did on a daily basis, that sales rate could be even better, and particularly that 1 in 2 success rate could
So
be even
right.
better.
And again, we can't, those agents that, are you affecting the market or is the market affecting you?
Yeah,
Everything's higher, so the tide rises. You're not doing that. It's your job
yeah,
to get 1 in 2 up to say 2 in 3, like you guys. Right. Okay. So the number of sales agreed 27,000, which I think is the fourth or best week in this year, which is really good.
fantastic.
Just remind ourselves here that the difference between the value of the houses coming on the market versus the houses that are selling. So the average value of a property coming on the market this week, well, this is the asking price, 455, but the average value of a property selling, 371. That doesn't mean that they're being knocked down. It just means more the
The
ones
volume
that are
of
selling,
higher price
yeah,
properties.
the low ones that are selling are the lower to middle market. And it's
Yeah,
interesting. I was on Facebook this morning, and this lady said my market's slow, and we actually looked at all the we did a price. We put them into a spreadsheet of all the listings and all the sales, and the listings were heavy towards the top end, but all the sales were at the bottom end.
exactly. And it's interesting actually because the same Zoopla data that I saw come out this week, what they talked about was the demand at the lower end. And when I say the lower end of the market, below sort of two, I think what they said was properties up to 250 to 300. So everything below that was the highest demand. There was the highest demand for, which is obviously understandable, but also that represented 50% of the stock that's on the market today. So I thought that was a really interesting stat actually, because A, it's in high demand. B, it'll be accounting for a significant proportion of those sales agreed numbers because they're moving much quicker and they're taking a lot less time to sell as well, which, as we know, the top end of the market takes longer.
And the proportion of homes that you sell at the top end, it's a
It's exactly. It
looks good in the
amplifies its
window.
own problem.
It looks good in the window, but are
Yeah,
you going to get paid on it?
yeah,
The percentage difference, 22.8%. The long-term average is 16. So you can see here that this gap is pretty big. So
yeah.
and just what I think
Uh,
agents need to know is,
I always worry when that gap gets too big. Yeah,
I'm hoping because it has it's starting to come down now
yeah,
last 2 weeks, but hopefully it's coming down. I'm hoping it comes down. If not, we're in trouble. Not too
yeah.
trouble. We're not talking Charlie Lambden trouble here. I me and him had a slang in a professional slanging match on
Oh, you were on Matt Giggs's showdown. Oh, I
oh
look
yeah,
forward to watching that one. That's
heavyweight
going to be
voices.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he's nothing if not passionate.
oh yeah, and we are mates, but
Hugely
we
passionate.
we
Yeah.
are mates, and it's total respect. But
Oh
we
no, for
disagree on
sure,
things.
absolutely. Yeah,
Agree on a lot of things, but not this.
yeah,
Right. Fall
yeah.
throughs. Okay, so Resi sell through, we looked at earlier on the percentage of homes of the percentage of your Resi sale stock that you're selling, and the average is
Mhm.
16%. So
Yeah,
agents are selling one in six houses of the houses they have on their books. If you're higher, you're better. If you're lower, what's happening? Sell fall throughs, we've been at, let's just pull the stats up this week. We're at 6,529. It's been there almost constantly at that level, or that's that number there, sorry. The percentage is around 23. I'll just have a look. 23.7, which again the average is 24.2. So you can
yeah,
see it's really happening there. I think this is a more important graph. This shows you what percentage of your sales pipeline fall through a month. And as I
yeah.
said, that's been pretty static at around 5.5 to 5.8. That was the COVID spike, and then we had a bit of a spike there. There's the trust budget.
That's the budget. Yeah.
There's the interest rates. Right. Okay. Let's move. Or was it the way? Yeah, I know. There's the fall through rate and the fall through numbers. Moving on to net sales. White line is 2025. Year to date, 508,000. So 6% higher than 24 and 11% higher than 17, 18, or 19. So this is the stuff we're going to get paid on. Um, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually because obviously net sales is the one that really matters, and there's a bit of a delta between gross sales and net sales. So and fall throughs, it seems to be sort of hovering around the same number, so it is reasonably static. However, coming back to everything we've talked about already, if we're not pricing things appropriately for it to sell in a shorter period of time, then the chances of that falling through or being pinched by another agent increases all the time. And again, there's nothing worse when you lose the sale, it goes to another agent, they price it appropriately, and it moves very quickly. So yeah, I think look, every agent should be forensically assessing their pipeline and making sure that their marketing reviews are on point, priced properly, the marketing strategy is in place, and marketing reviews are happening regularly, and the honest conversations with customers. Because better you having that conversation with your customer to say, this is not priced appropriately given how the market is today, might have been different a month ago, 6 weeks ago, rather than your competitor having the same conversation with them and you losing the chance to take it to completion.
Indeed, if there's any estate agents watching, I've got a 5-step plan which removes emotion out of the price reduction. And if you text me the word price reduction, I will send you the 5-step process. It's all on one page or a Word document on how to remove the emotion and then how to get buy-in from the vendor. So I'll just give you my number, ladies and gentlemen, 07950 147 572. Just text me the word price reduction and I'll send you that. I won't badge you.
What have you got to lose? Why would you not want that?
Also,
Why
well,
would you not want it?
oh, the people are daft. The bless them. All the graphs are available to download, ladies and gentlemen. I ask that you don't use them on social media because my daytime job is I ghostwrite local property market content. So, and some of my clients like to use it. So please don't use it on social media, but I'm happy for you to use it on the valuation or internally. And that's available on YouTube. If you go to the right up the description, scroll all the way down to the bottom, there'll be a link at the bottom where you can download all these graphs. There's the net sales, 20,998. Gross sales as a percentage of listings and price change as a percentage of listings. We'll just whiz through these. Verona. This is similar to last week. So the red line is exchanges numbers and the yellow lines is withdrawals. Look at the number of withdrawals. That's rising,
Yeah, yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
That was your March. Uh, that was your March
The
list.
spike. Hmm.
Okay. Which again, most people, if you ask most people, it said they thought it was double. It wasn't. It was just. Um,
I think it was interesting actually. So obviously March was a phenomenal month for exchanges and completions, and we anticipated a drop off in April, obviously as everybody did, but actually what we've seen is a slightly longer hangover from that because we cleared out so much of the pipeline in March that we then needed to build the age of the pipeline in order for us to have for completions to build again. So we're now seeing that really kick in June. So June is going to be a much stronger completion month, which now recovers from that kind of spike and then drop off cliff.
what was quite interesting is that nationally, this is the number of properties that are in sales pipeline. Okay, so this is your May figure here. There's your
Yeah,
March and April. So the actual drop wasn't as great because there was a lot of new sales that went in March that went under the radar and we didn't notice.
absolutely, they did.
So the drop off is not as much as you think it is, but it's still the age-old problem of getting the bloody thing through. Excuse my French.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Again, this is your we've talked about this many times. What percentage of houses leaving agents' books exchange on? 51.7 last month. The long-term average in the last 2 years, 54. A flip of a coin. It's not good enough, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Let's just remind ourselves of just a couple of extra graphs. One way that I measure house prices is through pound per square foot, and it's not a particularly very good way to value a property individually, but when you are looking at regional and definitely national, it's a fantastic way to judge house prices. And the orange line is the pound per square foot at sale agreed in that month, and that matches the land registry perfectly 5 months in the future. Okay, and someone challenged me a few weeks ago. Prove it, Watkin. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The red line is the land registry, and the blue line is sold. On the Pearson coefficient, correlation coefficient, 98%. So basically, we can. That is the what the red the red
Predictor, an
that, that
accurate predictor.
that's going to tell you what's going to happen to the land registry in 5 months' time. So if you want, why is that important? You have to be the local property expert. If you follow the show, ladies and gentlemen, you can basically tell when the top of the market is and when the bottom of the market is. A couple of extra rental data. We showed this last week, but some of you might have been on holiday. The yellow line is the average rent. Notice how rents have kind of leveled off a bit, and the red line is the number of available properties coming on. We'll just whiz through this. This is the average monthly rent by region, and we've got the private rent since 2016 and the inflation adjusted. Again, we won't spend too much time on these because we look at these in greater detail at the start of the month, but some of you might have been on holiday. Right, okay, we're at halfway point. Verona, any thoughts, or do you want to save them to the end before we go to the beautiful town of Mansfield?
So I think, as we said right at the top, it's been a really solid year. It's been a good year, actually. I think clearly the stamp duty threshold was a bit of a boost for the first quarter. That's evening itself out now, but I think there's so much great data in there to support listings being really strong, sales strong in relation to listings. Clearly, we could sell more as a sector, as a percentage of our stock. But overall, I think we're in a pretty good place and lots to be positive about.
Fantastic. Right, let us go to Mansfield. Right, Verona, can you just tell me that you can see 20A on the screen?
I
Yeah,
can.
beautiful, beautiful. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are using a piece of kit called Insight. Insight is a platform from the firm 20EA. 20EA have many different platforms, software packages, whatever they call them this week. We're just looking at Insight. Insight is like Rightmove Plus on steroids. Okay. It doesn't just look at the last year plus a month, it looks at the last 5 years plus the year we're in. It also has probably 4 or 5 times more data and cross-referencing data to actually prove that you are a better estate agent. I can assure you that the only pie charts that are in this are on this first screen here, and there are no pie charts to be seen elsewhere. So this is data designed to actually show you how you're performing, and you can use, if you use it in the right way, to enable you to get more business. So without further ado, what normally happens here is we pull up the first screen, and Verona, you just jump in at any time when you see something that grabs your attention. Okay.
Will do.
Right, so we're starting off with residential sales, and we are looking at between the 1st of January 2020 and the 29th of June 2025, because we're filming this on Monday. The average price of a property coming on the market in Mansfield, and we're just for the benefit of the ladies and gentlemen watching, NG18 all the way through to NG21. Mansfield is a market town just north of Nottingham. Yeah, it's just a nice little town with a nice bypass. The number of properties that have come onto the market in the last 5 and a bit years is 16,777 with an average price of 203. Why is that important? When we go through these agents, we will see where the agents sit in the hierarchy in terms of, are they a posh agent? Are they a middle agent? An analogy we always use is the supermarket analogy, because then people can judge it. So without further ado, the first thing is this. You've got to admit, well, I can remember doing this back in 2023, Verona, but Buckley Brown,
Yeah.
look at that.
Market leader. Yeah. Winning by a country mile.
Oh,
That's awesome. Yeah.
oh,
Awesome progress.
let's see what their
Fantastic.
average price is. 222. So therefore, normally the posh agent, sorry, the number one agent by volume tends to be just probably about 5 or 10% below the average in the town. And
Yeah.
that is very interesting that you are 10% above. So
Yeah.
that's really nice to see. I mean, again, that look how the consistency. It's very rare for me to see such a gap between
The
first.
top three or four. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'd love to know what they're doing. I mean, they've got incumbent status, which is going to definitely mean they're doing. I do hope they're charging decent fees
I
to
hope so.
bloody
It'll be
hell.
interesting when we get to the later slides to see what their pricing strategy is as well, because we'll get that from this data too. But also interesting, the average price in Mansfield generally 200K is obviously at the better value end of the market. So yeah, that's obviously, as we touched on in the first half of this, that is the part of the market which is really thriving at the minute. So they're taking the lion's share of that market.
Indeed.
Good on him.
And you can see here that look, where the price bands are is that number one is the 150 to 200 range,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the next one down is 100 to 150, and then you've got there's the 200 to 250. See, if we look
Mm.
at Buckley Brown, we can actually look. So yeah, that's quite nice to see actually. Right, let's just have a look. Let's do complete months. In May, 328 properties came on the market compared to 324 in 24. And we just, as we can see, we go down there, you can see the levels. May 2020, we were just coming out of COVID, back end of May. So I think you take that with a slight pinch of salt. But again, let's just remind, the number of 328 versus 22. So 50% more homes are coming on the market in 2025 compared to May 2021. So again, that's important for a great stat you could use in your
Yeah.
marketing. If someone says, well, I want to chance my arm. Let's go
Yeah.
look at Best to Ease. Best to Ease, I believe, are part of that. They're a franchise. And nice and steady. If that,
Yeah. Solid. Yeah.
yeah, looks like you have a good
And
month and then a bad month.
9% market share is still a good business.
There's nothing to sniff at.
But look at the average price though. They're at the lower end of that market.
Yeah, you're right there. Let's go look at John Sankey. It's slightly yellow there, but again, nice and steady around that 6% mark. Slight drift off
Yep.
down to last year.
Yeah.
Purple bricks. Now, purple bricks, that's quite 5.47, which is quite impressive for purple bricks. Normally they're around the 1 or 2% mark. Obviously,
Yeah.
in 22 they were more dominant, but that's not bad for purple bricks.
It's a value conscious market, Chris. If you look at the average price point, 203K for the average price point in Mansfield overall, and Purple Bricks are 195 their average. So that market, and clearly they promote their sell for free model with their boosts, but that is a value conscious community and a value conscious market. So therefore they're maximizing.
Laura Elizabeth's. Looks like you had a good takeoff there. Steadied in 23, but drifted slightly downwards.
Yeah.
Birchall Edwards, steady.
Steady. Yeah.
Leaders. So again, I suspect that might have been a buyout and then they've converted over. That's normally what
Yeah.
happens. I can't remember
Yeah.
who they bought out. Richard Watkinson's, which are a not good Nottinghamshire agent, slight drifting
Hmm.
downwards there.
Drifting. Yeah.
Okay. Frank Innes, part of Countrywide. They're
Hmm.
not a Nottinghamshire-based Countrywide agent. Staton and Cushley. Oh, well done, guys. Well
Oh,
done. Yes, yes.
yeah, they've grown. Yeah, very good. And 221 average price point, so the top end of the market there too.
Right, they finished
Strike's obviously gone. Yeah, that's merged into the PB numbers now.
David Blout location, Newton Fallowell.
Well, good local. Well,
Okay,
there's Yopa. Yes,
oh,
solid.
yeah, nice growth there. Well done,
Yeah, yeah,
Martin.
good growth. Yeah, that business has really taken off actually in the last 12 months. So you can see that in the stats.
What do you put that down to?
So growth in the agents, growth
Yes.
in extra headcount, and just building the business locally, doing a great job.
There's the EXP agent in Mansfield. That's
Yeah,
lots of growth at 3.
that's obviously growth as well. So it looks like a new business in early 24, and that's grown too. Great.
Let's just have a quick look at the last calendar year just to see if that makes any difference. Let's do that and then put that back out. We'll just wait for it to catch up. And you can see here that all the usual suspects and with
Yeah,
EX.
Purple Bricks has dropped in the last 12 months, and look where Yopa's gone from 15 to 9 in the last 12 months. I'll take that. That I will give the team in Yopa a little bit of a call out for that. Well done.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a little bit of movement in the last 12 months. It's interesting. Yeah.
That's really good to see.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
Buckley Brown's still firmly on top, though, doing a great job.
very impressed. Let's just have a quick look at the upper quartile over the 500,000 just to see who's the big boys and girls in the £500,000 mark. I doubt there'll be many properties.
No.
Okay. No, hold on. So
So the upper quartile in Mansfield is probably,
yeah, I mean, look, 116 houses over
yeah,
half.
there you go.
That's not many at all, is it?
No.
Let's just go. Okay.
Buckley Brown's still up there.
Okay. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? It is a good classic ex-mining town.
Yeah.
There isn't much posh out there. I've deliberately kept it tight on the town. Um, that's really good. Right, let's now move on. Let's just go and have a look. Okay, so we're looking between the 7th of June and the 29th. Okay, I'll tell you what, no, I'll tell you what, we'll move that one to the 30th. Do it properly, Chris. Right, let me just sort this out and then I'll explain what's happening because this is my favorite graph this is the favorite.
Mine too.
Okay, and there's a lot happening here and there's some absolute gold in here. And if you know what you're looking for, it is all right, hold on. If I do, I've just learned how to do this. Here we go.
Well,
Right.
I'm already impressed. I'm already impressed looking at these numbers. Look at
What's
the SSTC rates.
It is right. Okay, so what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen? We're what in the postcodes that we've already mentioned. Okay, those the order that they're in is the order that they're in is based on new instructions. But let's just ignore that for a second. Let's just have a look. So I'm going to ignore new instructions and I'm going to ignore sold subject to contract rate. Okay, because you can get it as you can slap a sold subject to contract sticker on it. The most important thing, are you going to exchange and get paid on it and the homeowner moved? So I want you, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who've not watched the show, and I know I don't want to teach Granny to suck eggs. I know you with you, Verona, because you know this, but this is for the ladies and gentlemen. Exchanged exchange percentage, withdrawn percentage. If you add up those two numbers there, they add up to 100% because those are the only way a property will leave in an agent's books is if she exchanges or she withdraws. Now, so therefore, in the last 12 months, we know that 749 properties have left Buckley Brown's books. How do we know that? 533 plus 216 in the postcodes we've mentioned. And of that 749 properties, 533 of them have exchanged contracts, which means 71.16% of homes that have left Buckley Brown's books have exchanged contracts. That's not bad for the big agent in the town.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Impressive numbers.
Bear stays at 73, but again, let's just, if Richard Watkinson's were coming in, well, 82 over 71, that's
Hmm.
probably about 16, 17% proportional difference. So Watkinson's could say, yeah, you might want to go with the biggest agent, but you've got a 16, 17% greater chance of actually moving with us
Yeah.
compared to. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's some really,
But if you look even at the average in Mansfield overall, it's 62.5
of
compared to 51.2 nationally. That's a much better result for customers in Mansfield.
course it is.
Some great numbers there.
There is. So again, I think this is the most important metric you can have is did you do your job and sell the house or not? What
Yeah.
price you got for it, we'll come on to in a second. Let's look at the fall through rate. So the average is 24.98, which is just about around the national average, just 1% more. And let's just see who up. So purple bricks at 40%. Oh dear. We've got some low numbers here, 21s, 20s. Buckley Brown. Again, if I was the boss man of Buckley Brown, why are, the fall throughs? I mean, by the sounds of
Well
it,
above average, interestingly. Yeah.
yeah, yes. The magic thing is is that their exchange rate's quite high at 71. So their fall through rates at 29 are above the average. However, it looks like they're operating good vendor management because they're keeping them on. They're not many of them are withdrawing.
Yeah.
Look, the average is 37. They're at 28. So they're obviously working their stock well. But,
Yeah.
look at the price. Oh, then price changes are high.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Yeah. So it'd be interesting when we look at the other slide with their pricing strategy, but that is a high price change rate.
Let's see what they do with the price changes. Okay, here we go. Oh dear, right. Okay. So what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen? So there's a lot of data on this screen, and we'll go methodically through it so you know exactly what's happening. So 20A have looked at the last 2 years worth of exchanges. And what they do is this. The first thing they do is that whenever the property comes on the market, they date stamp it and they look at your asking price and compare it with their automated valuation model price. Okay. And if the property subsequently exchanges, that is the percentage difference. And on average, Buckley Brown have overvalued by 1.13, which is very similar to the average in Mansfield at 1.28. Bairstow Eaves are overvalued by 2.09, Staton and Cushley 1.15, and John Sankey 0.34. So you can go down that list and you can see here. So it's nowhere near as bad as it is in London, where it's 5 or 6% overvaluing. But then we then come on to the next price is what price did you achieve on exchange compared to your original asking price? And on average, price they Buckley Brown 2.83% from the original asking price, remembering that there's a lot of price reductions here. That's quite high for that
Yeah,
is
it is.
it is this is above average on exchange, but above average on price change. That's weird. We don't often see that.
Mm,
Weird as
yeah.
hell. Um, isn't it interesting though that Purple Bricks is look, they're the highest overvaluers, but then they get clobbered on the price
Very,
they achieve. You
yeah.
see, if you want to know the effectiveness of an estate agent, you take off what you overvalued it by the price you achieved, but then work out the percentages. But people don't like percentages, so therefore, the wonderful people at 20EA say this: if everyone put on a £250,000 house, what would you actually achieve for it? And you can see here that it's nice and tight, but Buckley Brown would get 245, Bairstow Eaves would get 247, and Staton and Cushley 249. So therefore, Staton and Cushley can say we get on average £3,339 more than the average estate agent in Mansfield. And there's
And
so
you've got to call out here. Look, there's two down at the bottom. So you move are achieving on average £8,000 more, and William H. Brown £9,500 more than the average. So and if you look actually, their overvaluation is very different. So you move according to the VA is or AVM, sorry, is bang on. But William H. Brown appear to be overvaluing. Not a surprise there, I guess, 2% over, but they are still achieving more than anybody else. 9.5 grand more on average. It's a
in
good outcome for the customer.
what I would say, ladies and gentlemen, is that the lower end, because they're dealing with such small numbers, there's going to be a bit more variance on that. So I have greater reference from the stuff at the top and the further I go down. But just be aware, this is good stats you can use. Now, the way you use these stats is very, very important, and you can't just whip these figures out because the ASA will get you. But if there's any agents in Mansfield who are looking to try and take on Buckley Brown, then my daytime job is not a property statistician. I actually create marketing plans to try and get more business. So if any of you are looking to focus on Buckley Brown, and don't get me wrong, I love Buckley Brown. I know the people there, but it looks like they don't need any help. Do give me a shout if you were interested in growing your market share, because you can certainly, if you're a smaller agent, you can use the other agent's size to your advantage. A great line I always like to use is Mrs. Miggins. If I had a hot buyer, they've got 10 to try and show you. I've got one. How?
Exactly.
Yeah, I had a bit of argument on social media saying I would focus all on one on all 10. Yeah, all right. Right, here we go. How quickly do the agents sell the houses? So let's look at Buckley Brown. You take on average 74 days from new instruction to sale agreed, which is slightly higher than 68 days. EXP, 33 days.
Very good.
There you go. This is you at 55. Well done with Yopa as well. So there's some.
Yep.
Let's just see how long everyone's taking with their progression. 106 days, which is much better than 122 for the
That
man's.
comes back to the point earlier we talked about, Chris, about, having skin in the game and being really vested, seeing the customer right through to completion. That we see this quite regularly on the self-employed model and this.
I mean, look, the difference between these are the top agents, top 10 agents this year, and the difference between EXP, who will get it, from boarding the ground to moving, 139 days. Birchall Edwards, 223.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
months different.
Significant difference. And look at Purple Bricks as well. Not too far behind
No.
Virgil Edwards. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Let's go and look at the rental data. Okay, here we go. So, let us see who the movers and shakers are. And it goes with no surprise that open.
No surprise.
Okay.
But it's tight. Look, it's tight between the top three. So there's not a big difference. So I guess open rented leaders are jumping up and down between one and two quite regularly.
Yeah, what is interesting is that nationally we were at around 4 or 5% for open rent
Yeah.
in 2020, and at the moment we are around 18 or 19%. We're
Yeah.
about there now, but the growth. So again, I think you're right. This is a price sensitive market, but
Yeah.
what do remember, ladies and gentlemen, is that it's 51.2. Half of the properties that open rent have put on nationally in the last 2 years were previously on the market with a high street agent. So that's everyone was running around like headless chickens with purple bricks. No, this is the silent killer. Let's have a
Yeah.
look. Oh my word, leaders.
And obviously open rent are taking that share. Though if you look, they're growing and leaders are declining. So yeah, they're taking that
SOE,
share.
nice, nice, easy. Buckley Brown, that's not bad.
Very good.
Not
Yeah.
bad from there.
Looks
Yeah.
like a reasonably new lettings business in the last 5 years. So they're building, building, building.
Frank Innes,
Solid.
Martin and Co. Oh, dear
No,
go.
declining.
Location, Simpson and West, Zebra. Yeah, there's a bit of an ease off here. You're gonna get quite spiky now, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
I'll go down to my.
Belvoir growth.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, let's just have a quick look at what the average rent was in 2020, and it was 567, and
wow.
now it is 806.
800. Yeah. Wow, that's some growth.
It isn't right. Okay. Final thoughts from you, Verona.
Well, my final thoughts around the 20 EA data is, I'm a huge fan. I use it. I have a subscription. I use it daily, and I think it's brilliant data. And if you're not using, and it doesn't have to be 20 EA data, but if you're not using data to help you identify where you can improve in your agency and also to discuss in the lounge your expertise in your at a local level, then you're definitely missing a trick. So for sure, it's a fantastic strategy. Overall, as I said at the start, Chris, we're in pretty good shape. We're halfway through the year and it's all to play for the second half of the year. But yeah, we're having a good year and lots of positivity around.
Excellent. Thank you, Verona. If you want to contact 20A, do not mention my name or Verona's because we're not on commission, although we should be.
Nope.
It's called Insight. You can have a small package for 10 postcodes, and then you can have regional and national. I think it's for the 10 postcode districts, bloody good value for money, cheap as chips. But again, don't mention my name. There is a free version as well, which only goes about 3 months. But again, you can look at that. Verona, thank you for your insight today. Exceptional as always, your exceptional value for money, and your insight is brilliant. And you can see, ladies and
Thank
gentlemen,
you.
everyone does listen to her, and she's always on the panels of estate agents and conferences because what she says is bang on. Right, we'll leave the show there. Thank you for your time, Verona. Thank you for
Thank
watching,
you for having me, as always.
and we'll see you next week for week 26 of the UK Property Market Stat Show. Thank you very much. We'll see you then.